Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Today, we're going to be talking about the school shootings, and I'm going to try and help people understand um, what's happening, why it's happening. Okay, and the primary cause of why you have these young men, um, committing these terrible acts of violence, is because of the breakdown of the family structure. Okay, now this started back in the 70s. Okay, I remember as a child back in the 70s, I was watching psychiatrists talk on television about the increasing divorce rates. Okay, and they were saying how this was going to cause problems down the road in the future. Okay, so social problems. Well, here we are. Right now, we're like four generations into continual divorces, right? Where you have all these boys growing up without a father to discipline them, and they're acting the way that they're acting. Okay, now um, don't just look at the few isolated instances where you have, let's say, one boy that shoots up a school, but also look at the other situations where you have boys growing up without fathers, and look at the problems that they're having. Okay, now it might not be to the extent that it ends up on the news, but they're having problems. They're creating problems in society, and the reason is because they don't have their fathers to discipline them. Okay, so the thing to understand, right, that men, okay, by nature are extremely violent. Okay, in fact, the reason why humans are at the top of the food chain is because we are the most violent animals on this planet. Now, you might say the reason is because we have brains and we think. Yeah, but if you look at history, how do we use our brains? We use our brains to make war, right? If you look at all the technological advancement that happened during World War II, right? The reason why we advanced so quickly is so that we could kill people better and faster. Okay, um, so that's the first thing to understand coming into this conversation, that men are basically DNA programmed to be violent. Now, you may say, hey, but you've got this guy and that guy and that guy, maybe 20% of the male population that doesn't have this trait. Okay, well, yes, I mean there's testosterone levels do fluctuate. Okay, um, but a significant portion of men have high testosterone levels, are very prone to violence. Okay, and as a child, that included myself. Okay, so I am talking from experience here. Okay, now, did I ever commit any heinous crimes? No. Why? Because I had both a father and a mother to discipline me. Okay, my mother could not have done it by herself. Okay, she needed my father's help. Right? My father disciplined me. When I look at my boys, right, I got two of them. Right, they have inherited my traits. Okay, they are also extremely violent. That is their natural tendency. It is my job as their father to discipline them. Okay, my wife can't do that by herself. Okay, if something were to happen to me, where let's say I died, um, she would have a really hard time. But the good thing in that situation is that if that happened, then she would, because right now both my parents are still alive, even though I'm 50 years old. Both my parents are still alive. For at least for a short time, she would get help from my parents, right? So, so here's the thing, and I'm talking now in general. In historically, if you had a situation where the father died, right, the boy growing up could look to his, could look to his grandparents, right? He could look to his grandfather or to an uncle, right, where he could see, he could look and see what a family structure is supposed to look like. He could get some disciplining, all right. Um, so the situation that has been developing now since the 70s is we are like 3 and 4 generations into repeated divorces, right, of broken up families. So a lot of these boys growing up, they, they can't look to their father for guidance. They can't look to their grandfather for guidance. They can't look to their uncles, right, because everybody's divorced in their family, right? So they have no idea of what a family structure is supposed to look like, um, and basically they grew up completely undisciplined. Okay, now you might say, you might point me this example or that example of a person that grew up without a father, and say, well, he turned out all right. And yeah, that's gonna happen as well. But when you look at the situations where you do have a school shooter, right? And you can definitely see that in those situations, there's a broken up family. Uh, if there was a family structure behind that, it probably would not have ended up that bad. Now, I'm not going to say that that child would have grown up to be, the most successful person, but it would not have been that bad. Okay, he would have been able to get some guidance. Okay, so that's the thing I'm bringing out here. The reason why these school shootings are happening, right, is not because of the guns. It's because these boys are growing up without discipline. Now, this one in Texas, I think he was something like 18 years old. So here's the thing: you're not going to discipline. You're not going to discipline him when he's 18 years old. That disciplining should have happened, in the first 18 years of his life, so that by the time he becomes 18 years old, he knows what he's supposed to do. He knows what he's not supposed to do. He's able to handle the struggles, right? Because everybody goes through struggles through life. Everybody, so you got to be able to deal with those challenges, right? So you start teaching somebody when they're a kid how to handle with those challenges, how to handle when they're upset. Like right now, I got small kids, two young boys. When they get upset, they start throwing stuff all over the place. They start hitting. It's my job to basically discipline them, right? To teach them, that no, you can't throw stuff. You can't throw the milk bottle at mommy when you're mad, okay? So I have to discipline them to do that. It's very hard for a single woman to do by herself. Okay, now, why do we have these high divorce rates? Why do we have all these single moms? Completely politically motivated. Okay, back in the 70s, the Democrats started seeing some statistics that single mothers dependent on welfare vote Democrat, right? Because the Democrats are giving them welfare money, promising to give them more, or promising to continue to give them. So naturally, they're gonna want to support the people that are feeding them, right? So Democrats figured out that single mothers tend to vote Democrats. So Democrats have done everything possible to encourage single motherhood. All right, so yes, Democrats are definitely responsible for this. This is a pattern that's been growing over the last 40, 50 years. They think that in fact they do. The only reason why they're able to stay in power is because a lot of these single mothers that are voting for them, and they're not going to give that up. They're not going to, they're not going to change that. Okay, they're not going to change that. But and I'm not going to change anything with this video either. The sole purpose of this video is simply to help people out there understand why the thing that's happening is happening. The first place to start with is to understanding young boys. Okay, young boys are violent. That's in their DNA. Okay, I was a violent boy, but I was disciplined. All right, so I grew up to control that violence. Here's the thing: you guys have seen my fighting videos, right? I put on full armor. Even at 50 years old, every week I go out there, I put on armor, and I'm fighting full power, full speed. Okay, that's a way for me to channel my natural violence. Okay, I'm able to control it and direct it in a useful, productive way, where that's not also useful and productive, but also enjoyable for me and other people that either also participating or watching. Okay, so I have found a way to deal with that natural violence. Now that's me at 50 years old. Imagine what I was like when I was at 18 years old, right? So it's there. Okay, most women, because they don't have the same testosterone levels, are not going to understand that, right? They're not going to understand this urge that to fight, right? They're not going to get that. Now, about 20% of the male population also low testosterone levels. They're also not going to understand this. Okay, the rest of you guys out there, the 70 to 80% of males, you're probably going to understand this. Although I'm kind of filling in the other pieces of what's missing. You know, yes, we're all naturally violent. Why are some people able to control it better than others? You know, and that all comes back to the disciplining as a child, right? You know, learning to control that natural violence. Okay, so hope you guys found this video interesting, and you know, in order to try and fix the problem, you gotta understand the problem, right? You gotta understand these boys. When I look at these people that commit these violent crimes, right, these terrible crimes, where they're killing innocent people, you know, I can, you know, some people will look at that and they will say, how could they do that? You know, they just can't understand it. Okay, when I look at that, okay, I take a different perspective. You know, I look at it and I say, damn, that could have been me, right? If not for the disciplining of my father, right? The discipline that my father put in me. That's how I look at it. Not just those, but you know, you show me a prison full of the worst criminals, right? I don't look at them and say, hey, those people are different. Those people are not. I look at them and I say, hey, that could be me, but because of the disciplining that I received, I didn't go down that path. Okay, so same thing when I look at my sons. You know, they've inherited my personality, my traits. I have to discipline them, all right, so that they don't end up in one of those prisons or end up dead, right? That's my job as the father. Okay, so hope this video was interesting. And like I said, there's part of the reason why I'm doing this video is because a lot of people, for various reasons, part of it, gender, right? The 50% of the population that are female are probably not going to understand not going to understand that most men have natural violent tendencies, right? That's in our DNA. You know, for thousands of years we've been fighting wars, we've been fighting each other. You know, the people that have survived and been able to breed, right, and you know, are the most violent people, right? So that's part of what we are. We just have to control that and direct that in a useful direction. So thanks for watching. I'll talk to you all soon. If you're not a member of the channel, subscribe, and also follow me on Odysee, which is an uncensored platform. My channel name over there is Pocono Tactical. Odysee spelled ODYSEE.com. That's a YouTube alternative that's not censored. Thanks for watching. I'll talk to you all soon.